Hey friends, last day of the cleanse, day 14. Been on juice for 2 days now, really 3 days now, and today's the fourth day. So glad we did this. I'm so glad we did this. Out of this process has come a sense of really feeling like this is something I'd like to do with a group sometime. I've had a couple people, just by talking about it as I've been going through it, I've had a couple people express an interest in possibly doing it, and I think I've recognized the possibility in the past to sort of help usher people through this process, figure out what to buy, figure out what food to make, things that kind of make the process easier, and that you don't want to have to be doing on your own, kind of winging it for the first time you go through something like this. It's kind of nice to have some of that stuff curated a bit. And so, and I already have a couple people interested in that. So that feels like an exciting prospect. Definitely anybody who's interested, let me know. But I am also ready to finish this up. We're flying to Michigan tomorrow. Annalise and I are. It's going to be great. Katie's joining us the next day. So I feel like we're coming to the end of a phase here. And something that showed up yesterday was a feeling of, I mentioned yesterday, the last couple of days, I've been kind of wrestling with desire, not in the sense of like having desires run away with me, but actually looking at my own habit around kind of truncating or closing down my own desires. And something I recognized yesterday after something happened that I was really sort of hoping would go the other way, and it was something that I felt a sense of, I really wish this would happen. Let myself really feel that, and it didn't work out. It didn't go the way I wanted it to go. And and so then in sitting with that, something that came to me afterwards was the lesson of this event and everything that has come through for me over the past few days around desire, around not only letting myself feel a desire, but then expressing that, following that impulse. The lesson around that is far more important than this event. So maybe this event was really serving to kind of show me this, to show me what I'm losing by not trusting that impulse within me. It's illustrating, here's how things go when you cut yourself off from that flow. Because on some level, a strong desire is something trying to flow into us from the universe. It's a gift in potentia. And so that's why everything I've talked about, if you want to kind of go a little deeper on this, check out my last two posts, especially 2 days ago, but also yesterday, I think. But because that's the case, because the universe is trying to give us something, and desire is our, as Sadhguru says, it's the life force. It's none other than the life force itself. And Sadhguru says something else really interesting about desires. He says, it's not desire that is the root of all suffering. It's unfulfilled desires. Your fulfilled desires are the root of all joy. They're the source of your joy. So it's unfulfilled desire. So we don't want to incriminate desire itself, nor do we want to just compulsively and manically try and fulfill all our desires. But what we want is to assume a relationship where we really allow that energy to flow. We allow ourselves to connect with that energy. We allow ourselves to give over to it within a certain kind of consciousness, and then see where that leads us. See where it takes us next. I'm excited to see where this, this event in my life, where this takes me next. But even if it ends up being just oops, learned a lesson there, then that lesson is actually extremely important, because it's the thing that has surfaced a pattern in me that goes way beyond this event, and that is in need of being redressed on a much larger level, and that will probably take some time. Hopefully it'll happen quickly, but it may take some time to really shift in my interior. So I'm just feeling some gratitude for that, and I'm feeling, there's a way in which a cleanse like this one, especially when you go from being just a regular old, omnivore to a strict raw vegan diet for 2 weeks, and then ultimately a juice diet for these last 4 days. There's something that happens there that is kind of like the ultimate renunciation of desire. Not the ultimate, but it's a powerful renunciation. We have to kind of keep our desires in check. But this is where I would kind of like split hairs a little bit. It's not that I'm renouncing the desires. I'm renouncing compulsions. I have compulsive ways of eating, right? All of us do. Anybody who thinks that they're not eating compulsively is either an enlightened guru eating a completely, totally clean diet, or is just not aware of the fact that we're all somewhat compulsive in our eating. We get used to cooked carbohydrates. We get used to meat, the fat that we get from meat, the fat that we get from dairy, the protein that we get from meat, the proteins and enzymes and things we get from cheese. Those are all things that are we can develop an addictive relationship to, and a cycle of addiction in the body's biology. And that's not necessarily a bad thing unless we're not aware of it, right? Like an addictive cycle. I drink coffee almost every morning. I haven't had it for 2 weeks, but I drink it almost every morning. There's no doubt that there's an addictive cycle there. But that doesn't mean that I have to banish it, or that I have to banish all addiction from my life. It just means I want to do my best to be aware of what those cycles are, so that I'm not being pulled. I'm not starting to automatically go down a path that I don't want to go down. Consciousness is larger than addiction. That's my big takeaway from this process. Consciousness is bigger than addiction. And that means that even in the throes of an addictive pattern, or even in a kind of continual context of what might be an addictive pattern but not that destructive of a one, we can throw a net around that. We can decide about the process itself. We don't have to decide, like, in this moment, I will not follow this addiction. Like, we don't have to do that in every single instance in order to be, doing our job, in order to be evolving our consciousness. All we want to do is we're watching a chain of cause and effect, and we want to be conscious of what it's doing. Like, I want to know what coffee is doing to my body. I want to be okay with that so that I'm choosing it, not involuntarily succumbing to it. And then I want to ideally do some things that balance that so that my system can be healthy, right? I'm choosing coffee to pick on, but there's any number of things like that. Cooked carbohydrates you could choose. There's so many food compulsions that we have that we could, that we don't have to unchoose them in order to have a healthy relationship to them. We can choose them, but we want that consciousness. We want that place from which more awareness and we actually have a choice. We're actually freely choosing what we're doing. So a cleanse like this, where you do put everything down for a while and you really are frustrating a lot of compulsive impulses, is a tremendous exercise. And I think it's, fitting and kind of perfect that in that context I connected with a deeper desire and a sense of deeper desires, and that I suddenly, in the context of a lot of kind of renouncing a lot of compulsions, I then connected with a much more deeper impulse and sort of found my way both to seeing a pattern there and also to seeing a new pattern, a new way of engaging with that part of myself, with what's coming out of me. So it's been big, folks. I would highly suggest it. What I got today, folks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.